Happy NFL Draft Eve and welcome into the Dead Arm Sports Podcast. Josh and Jell here rocking opposing teams' jerseys for our NFL Draft episode. We have a fun mock draft for you a little bit later on in the show. But how you doing today, Jell? One day away. 2 days for us. We're recording on Tuesday night here, but you're listening.
It's Taco
to us
Tuesday.
On
It's every Tuesday's a good day. I had fish tacos for lunch actually.
That sounds great. Yeah. Where were those from?
Made them.
Oh,
made some tilapia.
Hashtag not a sponsor.
Taco Tuesday. Fish tacos not a sponsor. No, just did a little cast iron tilapia. Made an avocado cilantro sour cream sauce, which was orgasmic. Bunch of lime juice, all the other ingredients I mentioned, and got some feta cheese in there, a little green cabbage, and some radish.
Nice.
On a tortilla. I only have flour tortillas. They're supposed to be, I guess, on corn tortillas traditionally, but
isn't there? No.
I don't know. Maybe there's a shortage on a bunch of shit, but yeah, it turned out freaking sweet. So had some leftover fish taco action, and I'm in a good mood. It's Taco Tuesday, baby.
Nice.
Although I eat tacos probably like 4 times a week. It's insane. Like chicken, fish, like breakfast tacos, any kind of taco, like it's going down.
Nice.
Well, I don't need that much bread, so
also...
I just eat them. I just have them on tortillas, like, I mean, a lot of times if I've got brats, like if I've got tortillas on hand, I had them at, I had brats in a tortilla for the first time at a San Antonio, what's their double or triple A affiliate, MLB. It was a minor league baseball game. Round Rockets or round. No, there's a Round Rock. I don't know, San Antonio, whatever. I was down there for work and got to a minor league baseball game. Fernando Tatis and Luis Arias were both on that in the Padres system at that time. So they were both playing in that game. It was sweet. They had, I think it was like $2.
The missions. Does that sound right?
The commissions.
The missions.
The missions. That makes sense because San Antonio's a big military base, so that does, I guess, check out. But Tatis, Luis Arias there, $2 beers, $1 brats. I think my ticket was like $6. I was on the third baseline, like second row. It was pretty sick. Solid. Yeah, great time. Freaking love minor league baseball. So I'm doing great. So what I was getting at is that was the first time I had a brat in a tortilla. They melted Swiss cheese inside of it, and then you just open it up, and I put in kraut and mustard as I would for any brat, and rolled it back up, and oh my god, freaking awesome! Maybe I had a little diced onion in there too, probably. So I'm a
solid.
I mean, there's nothing like a brat on a big ass freaking like bakery roll like you can get up in Wisconsin, but when you got tortillas on hand, does the job quite well. So tortillas that's my carb, I guess. My number one carb rather than bread.
If you're not making tacos, you're in one of the probably best states to go out and get tacos too. So
big time.
Yeah.
The number one spot in the country. Yeah. California is actually going for, they're making a run for Texas's money. They got that Baja region that comes where a lot of people will come up to like LA for tacos and San Diego and stuff to sell tacos, but I think Texas takes the cake.
We have our question of the day today, but I'm throwing an extra letter in front of it, Jell. So it is the TQOD. It's the trivia question of the day today. NFL Draft Edition. When was the last time 4 quarterbacks went in the top 10 of the NFL draft? And
2018.
Can you name the 4 quarterbacks?
Josh Rosen, I'm going in reverse order here. Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, Baker.
Yep.
One of those 4 ended up doing anything. And that same draft, I feel like I heard that same exact stat somewhere earlier today on some show. So I probably otherwise wouldn't have had that right, like that. But, and then Lamar Jackson is in that same draft, goes number 32 overall. Ravens trade up out of the second round to grab their quarterback they thought would be there for probably a lot longer than it kind of looks like right now. But that's the worry about this year's draft is there's 4 quarterbacks and
more than likely going to be going top 10.
Could be going in the top 10, and 3 of them were, one was might be out of the league at this point in Rosen, Baker and Sam Darnold. Baker's maybe in the starting line for the starting job in Tampa, but only because his competition is Kyle Trask. And then Sam Darnold is going to be a backup to either Purdy or Lance, or fall into that third string role in San Fran, or maybe gets a start week 1 if Purdy still can't throw the ball. And then obviously you got Josh Allen there, who was, I believe, the number 7 pick, or 6 or 7 in that draft.
7.
So, and he's obviously, he'll be sticking around. So one of those guys is going to be with their team long term. The other 3 have already left their team. And then the 5th quarterback that was taken in the first that year, Lamar, we have no idea. So we might see 5 quarterbacks go in this year's draft in the first round if Hooker sneaks into the first. So it'll be interesting. I think when you think about your top 5 quarterbacks in the draft, that kind of checked out pretty right, where it was, you get basically 1 stud, you get 2 guys that are okay, you get 1 bust, and you've got 1, I guess Lamar's pretty spectacular, but how long is he going to be spectacular for? If we go back to what was the Zach Wilson draft? Was that 2021? Does that sound right? Something 2020, 2021, where there were 5 in the top 15 in Lawrence, who looks like the generational talent, Zach Wilson, a bust, Trey Lance, unknown, Justin Fields, unknown, Mac Jones, middle of the road. Like, I feel like that's how this is going to go. That's the history. If we got 4 or 5 quarterbacks going in the first round, we'll have at least 4, maybe a 5th. So it's who's going to be the bust, who's going to be the stud. I guess we find out.
Yeah.
But it's a crapshoot.
Absolutely, as it is every year drafting the quarterback position for the most part. Stay tuned to find out where Jell and I have some of those top guys slotted. Like I said, we got a mock draft coming up. Going to touch on some golf, but again, you can find us at Dead Arm Sports on all of our socials. Go to YouTube, type in Dead Arm Sports into that search bar. Today is a great time to stop listening to the podcast and go to YouTube. We are going to have our mock draft up on share screen, so you can follow along easily with the draft if you prefer a visual aid to help you out with our picks.
It's going to be really helpful for you to keep track of who's gone, who hasn't been taken, and you can be like, what the fuck? Why hasn't X player been taken? And it'll be easier to follow visually than just via podcast. So especially because we're going to be doing 2 separate mock drafts. So I'd recommend check out YouTube. That's going to be the easiest way for sure.
Subscribe, click the bell there. That way you know for future when our live episodes drop. We monitor that chat. You can ask us any questions. If you're on there live right now, you can ask us any questions in regards to our mock draft as we unveil that a little bit later on. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot. We will swag you up. Otherwise, you can always hit us up on our socials at Dead Arm Sports, at DasJel. That's at DasJel. I can be found at DasJPEC. That's at DasJPEC. Give us both a shout out and a follow. Going to kick it off with a very, very quick Zurich Classic recap here. Had Nick Hardy, Davis Riley pick up their first PGA Tour wins.
I like the Davis Riley action. Yeah. I will say that. Don't know who Nick Hardy is. I think of, Hardy. Isn't that a bike company, like a BMX bike? Hardy's. That's a
Huffy.
Huffy. That's what I was thinking of. Oh boy. It's going to be a long episode.
We're already off the rails here. But those two finished at -30, and they're exempt now. They get 2 years of PGA Tour, don't have to fight for their card. They get to play in the Century Tournament of Champions and get into the PGA Championship as well, and the Players. So awesome for those two guys. That was a huge win for them. Otherwise, yeah, not a great finish. I mean, Bo Hostler down the stretch and Wyndham Clark were in it till like the third or fourth remaining hole, and then just kind of fell apart. And I mean, it was one of those that Hardy and Riley finished up in, I think, like 4 or 5 groups left, and just no one really ever put any pressure on them. So just kind of a lackluster finish to this one, and kind of sums up our pairings as well. I went with the Fitzpatrick brothers. You ended up with Sam Burns, Billy Horschel. Ended up getting 2 strokes back on me, but surprise finish for me, at least, with the Fitzpatricks. Absolutely tearing it up in 4-ball, and then alternate shot was definitely a struggle. I think they're right around par after both rounds with that, but the other rounds, man, they were tearing it up.
So they ended up finishing 19 under, or
yeah, I think they were. I'm pretty sure, if I don't have it right in front of me, but I think that was all pretty much on the Thursday and Saturday rounds.
It has to be if they finished par on an alternate shot. That's pretty damn impressive. I mean, that's the difference though between Matthew Fitzpatrick and an Alex Fitzpatrick, where Matthew can do it for 4 days straight every single ball, where, hey, if Matthew, he can't do it. He's obviously not up to the par Alex is not up to the par that Matthew is, obviously. So that's where it kind of hurts. But geez, that's a killing in best ball. So good for them.
Well, I was happy with it. Like I said, going into it, I was just wanting to burn one golfer. You had taken that pair that I was hoping to grab, so it worked out. I'm happy with the result of that, even though
only two strokes. That's not bad at all. Especially is Matthew even like amateur status, or is he just like
Alex?
Let me grab
Alex is actually on a PGA Tour, the Canadian Tour.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
hey, shout out to the hockey playoffs.
Yeah, that might be the first time hockey's ever been mentioned on our podcast.
Hey, Dallas Stars had, okay.
Like it. Got a little bit of NFL news here. 2 shocking moves that actually went down today. Joe Burrow and Justin Jefferson's 5th-year option was picked up by their respective teams. So just absolutely mind-blowing. I don't know what those teams are doing. It just makes no sense. But no, those were just like click of the buttons. Don't even need to think about it. Autopilot. Yep.
Teammates on the best offense of all time in college football history.
Yep. But no, the big transaction that finally
another shocker, by the way, nobody saw this one coming.
Yes, Aaron Rodgers is finally a Jet. That went down yesterday on Monday. They should have everything finalized prior to the NFL draft. But yeah, he's a Jet. The Jets get Aaron Rodgers, the 2023 first-round Packers pick, which was the 15 spot, and a 2023 fifth-round pick. Packers get back the Jets pick from this year, so the number 13 overall, a 2023 second, 2023 sixth, and a 2024 second-round pick, which more than likely will be a first-round pick. Aaron Rodgers just has to play 65% of the snaps, and that'll turn into a first-round pick, which, barring an injury, I mean, they traded for him. He should be.
Watch him retire week 9. And he only plays 50% of the snaps, and then comes back. God, he would do something bitchy like that. Right. But I guess long story short, this is a second this year. It's a 2, moved up 2 spots from 15 to 13. What is that worth? Maybe a 4th?
Probably.
If that was done on draft day, you'd probably have to give up a 4th to move up those 2 spots. But it's essentially the Packers get the Jets second rounder this year and likely a first next year for Rodgers. And then, there's all those other extra late round picks.
Yeah, and the Jets are picking up his salary. So, I mean, he's got a little bit of a cap hit this year on the Packers, but he's off the books next year. So, I think that was the main thing with the Packers. If you get rid of him, he's not going to be on the books next year. So,
and it also cleared up a ton of space for the Jets this year. They were able to convert next year's guaranteed money into a signing bonus. So they opened up I think they still have $43 million remaining in cap space now, which that makes me think, hey, you can afford going after a DeAndre Hopkins.
Lamar.
Go play running. He can play wide receiver, as Bill Polian once suggested before Lamar was drafted. Right. No, I mean, I think it's a win-win for both sides. Packers were obviously ready to move on, and I think most Packer fans honestly were ready to move on. It's not a good riddance. It's a thank you for your service, but time to go. Enough of this. We appreciate your time. I just didn't want another year of it myself. I think a lot of Packer fans were pretty much over all the drama and everything. And him, I saw a quote today from Joe Douglas. One of the media members in New York asked, hi, how do what do you think this is going to do for Zach Wilson? How do you think this will affect him? And he's like, I think this is the best thing for Zach Wilson. He'll have a guy here to develop him, and he'll be able to look behind one of the best players of all time, best quarterbacks of all time. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, for that to happen, Aaron Rodgers would actually have to show up to practice, and, which he has not done over the last 2 years. But so I thought that I just side topic there, but I think it's a win-win for both sides. It's about the capital that I thought the Packers were going to get: a second this year, a conditional second/first next year. And if Rodgers retires after this season, the Packers do still get a first-round pick, assuming Rodgers plays 65% of the snaps. So, I mean, it's a win for both sides. We obviously saw this coming for months, and I'm just glad it's over before the draft so that both teams can figure out what they want to do in the draft and not have to think, what if we don't get this done by the time our pick is up?
Yeah, no, I think that the Packers, I was shocked actually a little bit that they got back what they did for him. I thought that they did really well with that, just with the Jets not really knowing how long they're going to have Aaron Rodgers for. There's no guarantee he's going to play past this year. So I was pleasantly surprised, I guess, that the Packers ended up getting back that possible first-round pick next year. I didn't know if the Jets would end up parting with the first-round pick just without that guarantee, but I think it's a nice haul for them, and the Jets finally get a relevant quarterback they haven't had in a long time.
And the conditional that I thought it was going to be a second this year and a conditional pick next year based, it would be a second that turns into a first if he plays next year. That's the part that, I was kind of surprised. Like if he plays 65% of the snaps this year, that's going to happen. I think there's only been one season since he became a starter where he didn't meet that mark. So you'd assume he's going to play that 65%. So as a Packer fan, happy about getting that extra first for next year. That's pretty much guaranteed.
We have that updated on our mock draft. So while Jell is pulling that up here, I'll go over a little bit about what we're going to be doing here with our NFL draft Makalaka Ding Dong. Gonna kick that off. So today we're going to split this into two parts just so that way we can discuss our picks a little bit and question a pick if we're not sure what is going on from our co-partner here on what their pick is. But we're just going to go through the first 16 picks today. So Carolina through Washington, as Jell is pulling up our draft. Again, go to YouTube right now. We have a lovely draft board you can follow along with that Jell has so kindly penciled in Max Johnson of Texas A&M as the first pick in the draft. Not eligible this year, Jell. So I guess
I got
a lot of Aggie friends down there. Yeah. But
I will take him out.
So we're going to go through each pick and who we are projecting for that spot. For simplicity, we're not going to do any trades. This is assuming that that team is going to be picking, or you think a player will go in that spot. We're not going to necessarily do trades or anything like that. We'll bring up if it's a likely trade out spot or a team might trade in. We'll discuss that, but we're just going to keep it simple today and
keep it simple, stupid.
Yes, and just stick with the team that is currently picking in that spot. So yeah, I guess without further ado, I'll go ahead and kick it off. Carolina Panthers are the top spot. They have been on the clock for 2 months now since their trade with the Bears. And I think this one's pretty simple. This is the only pick right now that I think.
Hold on. Wait. Shit.
Little technical difficulties.
All right. With the first pick on the clock, the Carolina Panthers.
Love it. But I think this is the pick that is the only one that is penned in right now, and that's going to be Bryce Young, quarterback from Alabama. I'm sure you're going to be typing that in over on the other side too, Gel, but that just seems like the logical pick here. They trade up. They're obviously going to be going to quarterback, and this is the safest quarterback in the draft. Yes, in the end, he might not end up being the best quarterback. There are guys with maybe more potential, but this is the safest pick. This is a guy that you can lock in as your franchise quarterback here for the next while, and you can feel good about it, not really have to worry at all. You're going to have to find some pieces to help him out, but you can have him sit behind the beige water pistol for a game or two, learn the offense, and then Bryce Young can make an appearance.
Yeah, I don't even see Andy Dalton making an appearance here. I think Bryce Young is the starter day one in Carolina. And Beige-Water Pistol doesn't deserve any more playing time than he's already gotten in his NFL career. God, that guy's made a lot of money for being mediocre, even as a backup. So good for him. Bryce Young, number 1 overall quarterback out of Alabama.
I like it. Why don't we snake this, Joe? Who you got for your second pick here for the Texans?
With the number 2 pick in the NFL draft, the Houston Texans select Tyree Wilson, edge rusher out of Texas Tech. I know it's been for a while that Will Anderson has been the kind of consensus number 1 on a lot of people's big boards, but I think that there's the fear of Will Anderson possibly have already peaked at Alabama, and he's the safest pick in this draft, at least from a defensive standpoint, from a lot of people. However, I think what ultimately spooks the Texans away from taking Will Anderson and going Tyree Wilson is that Jadeveon Clowney number 1 overall pick, where everybody thought, hey, he's the safest defensive player in this draft, safest edge rusher. This guy's going to dominate. And he ended up being an average player. There may be a fear from the Texans, given that they had Clowney, that there's no such thing as a safe pick, and taking the safest player on this board it's not worth it. So I'm going to go Tyree Wilson. We also saw the same thing in Jacksonville last year, where it looked like Aiden Hutchinson was going to be the number 1 guy, the safest pick. And so far his rookie year looked like he should have been the number 1 overall pick, but Jacksonville went, was it Trayvon Walker? Yeah. Trayvon Walker out of Georgia, for those physical traits, for the freak nature, the freak body that he had and still has. But so I'm going to see I'm thinking the Texans may go do the same thing and go for those traits that Tyree Wilson has. I mean, 6'5", freak edge rusher, elite athletically, not the most refined product out there, but he's got those physical traits. And I think that's something that the Texans are going to buy into at their number 1 overall, or their first round selection.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. There's been a lot of hype of Tyree Wilson jumping up boards and being that first defensive player off of the board here. I am going with Vegas money right now, and they've got the number 2 pick as Will Levis. So I'm going to lock Will Levis in here. I don't like that pick if that is Houston actually making the pick there. I don't know if, again, Vegas, I've seen articles with Houston picking Will Levis or just a team trading up for Will Levis, and that's where the money line is with Vegas right now. I think it's going to be a mistake, especially if a team trades up and gives away draft capital to grab Will Levis. It's just mind blowing to me, but I'm going to put Will Levis in there right now just with Vegas. Vegas usually has some idea of what is going on with this, and I'm very curious come Thursday to see if this actually is what happens. I mean, this obviously is a trade up spot. What do you think the odds are that Houston actually makes a pick here? Do you think they're more than likely to trade out, or do you think they're more than likely to take the pick?
Well, first off, I think if Houston does stay at that number 2 spot, there's absolutely no chance that they go Will Levis. I don't think they take a QB at number 2. I think if they stay at 2, they go defense. They either go Tyree Wilson or Will Anderson. Maybe they buy into their culture that is non-existent and take Jalen Carter and take that risk. I don't see him going quarterback at number 2 here at all. Reason being, I think that there's a chance that Trey Lance, there may be some movement with the Niners and Trey Lance. So especially with DeMeco Ryans coming over from the Niners, he knows a lot about Trey Lance. Now that may spook DeMeco Ryans, given that he has seen Trey Lance do absolutely nothing in the league so far. But I think that I can see this in the works where Houston says, hey, let's trade back and get additional capital, or let's take the best defensive player available and let's send away a second, receive back Trey Lance and a third and something like that. And then they can try out Trey Lance for a season. And if they decide, hey, he's our guy, they can pick up that 5th-year option after this season. If they decide he's not a guy and he sucks again, we suck again, then they'll be in a good spot to grab either Drake May or Caleb Williams. So I think that's either for them, it's either best player available, best defensive player available, or trade back. I see no chance that they end up taking a quarterback, though.
Sounds good. I get that music, Joe. Arizona is on the clock. With the 3rd pick in the draft, I have Arizona selecting an edge rusher from Alabama, Will Anderson. I think they're going to end up going there. They need a lot of help. This could potentially be a trade down spot too for Arizona if Houston or another team don't take a quarterback that another team really covets. Arizona needs draft picks. They're in a full-on rebuild right now outside of having Kyler Murray as their quarterback, and they need additional help here, but they could easily start this off on the defensive side, get a guy that can be a cornerstone for that defense. Just had JJ Watt retire, which granted he was at the end of his career, still solid production though when he was with the Cardinals, but can get Will Anderson in there, get a good pass rush going, and get that top defensive guy off the board.
Yeah. I got nothing more to say on that. And spoiler alert, Will Anderson going at number 3 to the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, like we had said, like you just said, and like I kind of had said when I was talking Tyree Wilson, just it seems like the most sure thing on the edge. He's been one of the most dominant defensive players in college football over the last 2 years. He could have been the number 1 overall pick if he would have been eligible to come out of Alabama last year. So, I think the Cardinals, they have so many holes, man. And Will Anderson's a great
Swiss cheese.
Sieve. Will Anderson's a great place to start for rebuilding your defense. So, I'm going to lock in Will Anderson as well as my number 3 overall pick going to the Arizona Cardinals. The Indianapolis Colts are on the clock at number 4 overall, and I am going to go. I mean, there's been a lot of buzz about Jim Irsay falling in love with this player, falling in love with the traits, and they're obviously in need of a quarterback. And I've been going back and forth on a couple guys here at quarterback. Obviously, they're as desperate as possible, but I'm going to go Will Levis, number 4 overall to the Colts. Ultimately, I honestly think that they end up trading up to that number 2 spot to grab him, which could be a weird, or maybe up to number 3. I don't think they're gonna sit there and wait till 4 to grab him. But if there is no movement, which, like Josh said, that's what we're doing in this draft, and they do stick at number 4, and I think Levis, again, assuming no trades, would be available at 4. So I think that I'm gonna go Will Levis there at 4 to Indy. One of the most quarterback needy teams, if not the most. Can we say the most quarterback needy team in the NFL? I mean, I guess you can throw Houston in there, but Gardner Minshew is your other option. It's a battle of Gardner Minshew or Davis Mills. So, take your pick. But I think Will Levis is ultimately going to be a Colt. Just not sure exactly where, but assuming no trades, he will be available at 4 to them. Will Levis.
I like it. If they trade up, I see that more being to that 3rd spot to Arizona. I can't imagine an interdivision trade for a franchise quarterback.
What could screw that up a little bit.
That's the only thing with that. They could, but it's going to cost them a ton to move up in the division to grab that quarterback. But no, that very well could be an ideal landing spot for Will Levis. I have a quarterback coming off of the board here as well, and that's Anthony Richardson. I've got Anthony Richardson here to the Colts. I think he is in a good spot here where he can sit behind Gardner for a little bit, and just a freak athlete, a guy that could potentially be the best quarterback in this draft, but just has a lot of work left to do with that. And it'll be interesting. You got some solid receivers there to work around with the Colts with Pierce and Pittman, but got a good run game, so maybe that helps him out a little bit. He's dynamic in that run game as well, and I think this is a good spot for Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I think that's that was obviously the other quarterback that I was debating on was going Anthony Richardson here. I like I said, I went back and forth on those two guys. I would have gone Anthony Richardson here, but the Vegas rumors of him possibly, being the favorite to go number 2 overall kind of spooked me. I wanted to go Anderson or go, Anthony Richardson here, but no, that's a fair move. With the 5th overall pick, the Seattle Seahawks select. Well, wait.
The Seattle Seahawks select Jalen Carter, defensive tackle from Georgia. I think this is a really good spot for him. Get some of that ferocious D back in the Pacific Northwest that was their bread and butter during the Super Bowl era with Russell Wilson there on the offensive side of the ball. Again, some issues there, but I think Pete Carroll's done a really good job with the players there, so I don't really see that as too much of an issue. Got a nice big disruptive force in that middle of the defensive line, and Jalen Carter would be a really nice fit in Seattle. I have my Bears jersey on. He's somebody that potentially could be there at 9-2 if Seattle does pass on him, but I don't think they will. I think they're going to end up going Jalen Carter.
Yeah, this is another one that I had been contemplating on for a while. I think Jalen Carter's a great fit there with Seattle and the Pete Carroll culture. He's taken chances on a lot of guys that have maybe had some questionable character, and we haven't seen issues until maybe they leave Seattle. So he gets those players to buy in really well. I think this is a great fit for Jalen Carter and for the Seahawks. So I think this would be a great pick for them, but
not so fast, my friend.
Not so fast, my friend. In Gel's mock draft, I've got the Seahawks selecting Anthony Richardson, quarterback out of Florida. I think that they're ready to give Geno 1 year, maybe a year and a half, maybe at the Thanksgiving point of 2025. That's when, or if there's some bye week that, where it looks like Geno's kind of reverting back to what he was. Richardson has made some nice developments over the last year and a half. Bye week now, he's got Washington and then, I don't know, some other mediocre NFC team following, right? Arizona right behind him, like for his first 2 starts right after a bye week. Perfect time to make that switch. That's what I'm kind of envisioning what the Seahawks do. Jalen Carter is going to be extremely, extremely tempting for Pete Carroll to take and for John Schneider to take. But John Schneider, also the GM of the Seahawks, is one of those guys that, he falls in love with traits. Even when he had Russell Wilson, when Wilson was still in his prime back, a few years ago when Josh Allen was coming out, John Schneider was attending that draft workout or his pro day and all that stuff. So, and worked him out in the Seahawks facility. So he's a guy that loves traits, and Anthony Richardson obviously has all the traits. So I think Pete Carroll wants Jalen Carter. I think the GM wants Anthony Richardson. And ultimately they're saying, how far is Geno really going to take us and for how long? So that's why I'm going to go Anthony Richardson here.
I love that fit with Seattle. I think that would be the perfect landing spot for Anthony Richardson, where, like you said, they committed a lot of money to Geno on the front end of that contract. They can get away with having Geno play for a year, let Richardson develop behind him, and that'd be a perfect system, assuming Pete Carroll or whoever takes over runs a very similar system to Pete Carroll's offenses that they've had there, and would be an awesome spot. You've got some solid receivers for Seattle as well. They've got a later pick in the draft as well that they might be adding some more help. You'll have to tune in tomorrow because they won't be on for this one. But no, that would be perfect. Again, my mock draft, Anthony Richardson was off the board. CJ Stroud might be a little perplexing to them to take, but I think ultimately if it was between CJ Stroud, Jalen Carter, they'd lean Jalen Carter on that. But no, I don't blame you at all for Anthony Richardson there. I love the fit.
The only reason I think CJ Stroud isn't when I did a little bit more digging into him, it's like one of his comps, at least in terms of his playing style, is Geno Smith. Now he's more accurate than Geno, but what exactly is there to fall in love with for Pete Carroll or John Schneider to fall in love with CJ Stroud? He's just got a lot of very average measurables in terms of, a lot, just everything. And just knowing this Seahawks squad, they love their high end traits, which is why I think it's Jalen or Anthony Richardson if those two guys are there, and nobody else should even be considered.
You make me laugh every time.
With the number 6 pick, the Detroit Lions select Devin Witherspoon, corner out of Illinois. He's totally a Dan Campbell type of a guy. Came in, had some issues academically, was actually, first off, came in as a 0-star recruit, had some academic issues, ended up having to transfer to a junior college before showing out right away, and then eventually getting to Illinois and absolutely dominating this year. Dan Campbell loves his guys that are hard workers, are able to kind of, dig themselves out of holes, bite kneecaps, etc. And Devin Witherspoon was absolutely dominant this year in the Big Ten. I think this is a Dan Campbell special, and Devin Witherspoon knowing how to play in the Big Ten weather. I think that'll turn on the Lions a little bit
and that
towards
dome.
Witherspoon.
No, I don't have much else to add there, Jell. You can copy and paste that over to my pick in the Detroit Lions. I've got Devin Witherspoon going there as well. I was torn too a little bit. This might be a spot for CJ Stroud with the Lions. Jared Goff after this year, we don't know what that looks like. And the Lions are projected right now, I would think. I don't have them up in front of me, but one of the favorites to win the NFC North. So I don't know that they're really going to be in a good draft spot next year to get a quarterback of the future. So if one of the guys that maybe they have scouted and like falls to them, this might be a spot for them to do that. You could transition over, but ultimately, I think Devin Witherspoon is their guy. He can help shore up that defense. Like you said, he's a Dan Campbell guy, and you got a solid offensive unit there, and it can help get some help with them on the defensive side of the ball. So hit that button.
Cue it up.
And with the 7th pick in the draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select CJ Stroud, quarterback from the Ohio State University. This is as far as CJ's getting down the board. If he go to YouTube, folks, for the Ohio State University going into the school selection there. But yeah, I mean, you have Jimmy G, so we'll see. He's probably going to be hurt after the 4th game of the season, and CJ will be thrown in there. But
hey, they got Brian Hoyer, okay?
Yeah, I forgot the all elusive Brian Hoyer. But no, CJ Stroud, somebody I think Vegas would be a nice spot for him. Doesn't get thrown in right away, but could compete for some playing time too early on. I think he can learn from Josh McDaniels, who obviously had a very successful run as the O coordinator for the best quarterback of all time, the GOAT Tom Brady.
Big time Timmy Tom.
Josh is going to want a quarterback for the future, and CJ Stroud is sitting there for him at number 7. So I like CJ Stroud to Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, this is another guy that I don't see much of a difference between Jimmy G and CJ Stroud. I think they're pretty comparable players, although Stroud doesn't get, at least throughout his college career, isn't getting hurt every single year. So I think the fit is there. I don't know what the what the contract language is like in that Jimmy G, in the Jimmy G piece, because I think Stroud is one of those guys that you'd like to see starting pretty early on. Now, obviously knowing Jimmy's injury history, he may be starting week 6 because he's got no other option. They have no other option, but I think that's a pretty fair fit. And like you said, the Josh McDaniels factor is legit. However, in my mock draft, I have, with the Las Vegas Raiders, going with cornerback Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. Also return specialist, where they have struggled mightily in the return game. I think they're desperate for cornerback help, and that's going to be the motivation to get one of the the best, I think the best available player outside of Jalen Carter in the draft here. I think Jalen Carter is a nice fit in terms of like needs.
Like he fits Raiders where there's questionable character.
That's
first round pick.
And that's like need wise. Yes. Mark Davis wise. Yes, absolutely. But hopefully Josh McDaniels and their new their GM that they brought over from the Patriots, spacing on that name, not going to think of it, is hopefully they'll talk Mark Davis off the ledge and say, dude, Jalen Carter in Vegas. Like we saw what happened when Henry Ruggs was in Vegas. We don't need another questionable character that likes to street race. So, sorry to bring up a sore subject there, but it's the reality. I don't think that would be a smart move there. So, I think Christian Gonzalez, one of the, he's great corner, fits needs, and, high character guy as well. The Atlanta Falcons are on the clock. With the number 8 selection, the Atlanta Falcons select my boy, Lucas Van Ness, edge rusher, Iowa. I've seen some mocks where he is as high as a number 10 or a top 10 pick. I've also seen him go as low as like 22. So there's a pretty wide, varied opinion on him, but I think he's a freak. He would fit in great. I'm loving the thought of Lucas Van Ness on that turf in Atlanta. That sounds like an absolute. I mean, the guy's a freak. You get freaks on turf, they become even more freakish. So I love the thought of this here, and it fits a need for the Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, they'd be extremely pumped to have him there. And yeah, I mean, for all those reasons, I don't know. That's a little early for me right now. It would not surprise me one bit at all, but just a lot of the mocks are seeing him in the teens, but very well could be the best edge rusher in this draft when it's all said and done. So I don't hate the pick at all. Mine with Atlanta is another edge rusher as well, someone that you had as first off of the board, and that is Tyree Wilson. I think Tyree Wilson still being available at this stage would be an absolute steal. Being a Bears fan, I would hate with Atlanta picking him right in front of us, as that would be awesome for us to have. But ultimately, Atlanta, best overall player right now. They need a lot of help. They're going through that rebuild right now. Not a quarterback available for them to take right now. It's way too early for talking about Hendon Hooker at all. So Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech is my pick here, going one spot in front of the Bears. So with Tyree Wilson taken with Atlanta, why don't you hit that button, Mr. Joe? With the 9th pick in the draft from the Carolina Panthers, the Chicago Bears will select best tackle available in the draft, and I think that is Paris Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State. He's somebody that you can plug in day one, great run blocker, great pass blocker, and you need that help with Justin Fields. You committed this offseason to Justin Fields as your quarterback of the future, trading away that first overall pick, and you need to protect him. So get Paris Johnson Jr. in there. I think that is a safe pick. It's a great pick. The other name that is jumping up the boards a little bit that there's rumors that the Bears really like is Darnell Wright out of Tennessee, a tackle as well. So it would not shock me at all if that was their pick there, along with they've done a ton of research on Peter Skoronski as well, from Northwestern, Chicago area native, grew up there. So that obviously is another pick too. Like I said, if Tyree Wilson is there, if one of those guys, Jalen Carter, it wouldn't shock me with Eberflus being a defensive guy, getting that 3 technique guy in a Carter, or getting a solid edge rusher there. But ultimately, I think it's going to be the tackle position, and Paris Johnson helps out with a lot of their needs on the line.
Yeah. You summed that up pretty well. I've got Paris Johnson as well going here, number 9 to Chicago. Fits a need. That offensive line was atrocious last year. They didn't do much in free agency, at least on the tackle position. Maybe they got some depth and some interior line play, but I don't think they signed anybody to play that tackle spot. So
no, they signed a guard from the Titans, but that was it.
So they're in desperate need of an offensive tackle. Paris Johnson's the number 1 in my book. Darnell Wright, like you said, I've seen him shooting up boards, but I think Paris Johnson's more of the kind of sure thing here, and just I feel like he's more of a known. So I've got Paris Johnson as well, tackle out of Ohio State, going to the Bears. Rounding out the top 10, our NFC representative in the Super Bowl received this pick from New Orleans last year or 2 seasons ago, when they made a couple of trades.
I don't even remember. Honestly, I saw this and I'm like, I don't even remember who they traded to New Orleans.
I think they were doing a bunch of pick swapping, because they had like the 15th, 17th, and 18th overall picks, I think 2 years ago. And they traded 2 of them to the Saints, and they moved up a ton, and then they got CJ Gardner-Johnson or something. I don't remember. It's a freaking blur at this point. Yeah. Right. But for the NFC reps in the Super Bowl to have a top 10 pick, not too shabby. Yeah, and I think that they are going to go with, previously mentioned briefly, Peter Skoronski, offensive lineman out of Northwestern. He played offensive tackle with his time at Northwestern. However, they say he can play any position on that offensive line, from left tackle, guard, center, right guard, right tackle. And I think that that's a perfect fit. You start him week 1 at maybe a left guard, right guard spots. And then once Jason Kelsey retires or Lane Johnson retires, I guess probably more Lane Johnson retires, or their current left tackle leaves, you just move Skoronski over to that position. So I think it's a perfect fit. You know, you hear the rumors of Bijan Robinson going here at 10, and to me, that's not an area of need. I mean, Jalen, I don't want to blow your pick if it is Bijan, but it's not an area of need for me, where I think Skoronski is more of an area of need on that offensive line. And if you know anything about Howie Roseman, he likes to draft and develop defensive and offensive linemen and then go get his skill players either late in the draft or make trades. I mean, we've seen AJ Brown, for example, going and getting a guy in, via trade, CJ Gardner-Johnson, getting him via trade, Dre Bly, holy shit. Who's the corner from the Lions? Big play Slay, Darius Slay, via trade. So I think that he builds those he just continues to build those trenches up. Peter Skoronski fits day one and then eventually moves out to tackle.
Yeah, Skoronski's a great call there. He's a high IQ guy that, like you said, can play just about any position on the line. Great technique. So don't blame them at all to shore up that line. You just gave a ton of money to Jalen Hurts, so you need to protect him. I am putting Bijan here.
Wow.
So it's not, like you said, it's not a huge need position, but you signed Rashad Penny to a 1-year deal, and he has had a ton of trouble staying healthy. You lose him, there's not a ton on that roster. Kenny Gainwell's not a 3-down back at all. No, I said he gets hurt. And
okay.
Yeah, Rashad Penny gets hurt, and there's not a ton on that roster because Kenny Gainwell's not a 3-down guy. He is solid for a couple downs, but I think that they're going to end up using this pick here. This could be a spot too that maybe they trade back, pick up some extra picks too if someone is super high on Bijan, blows them away, or if one of the quarterbacks happens to fall. I think anywhere from the 9 to, I don't know, all the way to the probably 14 range is somewhere for a team to trade up potentially if CJ Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson fall there. But I wouldn't mind Bijan in that offense. It'd be pretty sick if you lined him up with Jalen
Mustard
in the backfield. But yeah, that would be ridiculous. Hit that button, Joe.
Come on.
With the 11th pick in the draft, Tennessee Titans select Peter Skoronski from Northwestern. So I think at this point, Tennessee is in no man's land right now. This could be, there's talk of maybe Derrick Henry being shipped out, Tannehill being shipped out. I think they're in a downward spiral right now, and you just got to go best overall right now. And I think that's Peter Skoronski. I don't think you can go wrong. He's about as solid as it gets. And like you said, not to beat a dead horse here, you can start him off at the tackle position. He played in college, move him over to a guard, do whatever you want with him. He's going to be solid, going to be a staple on that offensive line. So I think Tennessee can lock in a solid pick here and best overall.
And we saw Rashawn Slater come out of Northwestern, and he was kind of looked, with the Chargers now, but he was looked at as one of those guys that he could play guard. He could start him at guard and then move him over to tackle.
Yep.
He ends up being one of the best offensive linemen his rookie year. Now, of course, he ended up getting hurt last season, but no, I think Skoronski could end up having that very similar upside. Also another, as mentioned, another guy out of Northwestern. My number 11 overall pick to the Tennessee Titans. Finally, CJ Stroud goes. Okay. As you mentioned, they're looking to potentially move off of Ryan Tannehill. It's been mentioned on this show. There have been reports that that Tennessee brass is already out on Malik Willis. You've got a brand new GM there as well, who did not pick Malik Willis, has no ties to Ryan Tannehill. And year one, a lot of these GMs like to grab their guy. I mean, Jordan Love, for example, year one of Brian Gutekunst, I didn't pick Aaron Rodgers. I'm gonna grab my own guy, Jordan Love. Ted Thompson did the same thing though. When he came in year one, he took Aaron Rodgers. So a lot of these GMs, they like to grab their guy that they can kind of hitch their wagon to. And I think CJ Stroud is that for the Tennessee Titans, especially given that they're in rebuild mode at this point. And somebody at some point is going to miss out on one of these quarterbacks, and maybe you can trade away Tannehill for a third or something. Or if you get lucky.
Yeah, no, I like that fit a lot. If he was still there, this is definitely a spot Tennessee would be more than happy to take a quarterback. And honestly, if any of those top 4 quarterbacks fall, I could see them possibly taking a shot on them. They need to do something at this point in time. They had their window. It did not work out well. It did not translate into the postseason, their division titles, and gotta do something here to start over.
Could you see the Titans getting aggressive and trading up with Arizona to 3? I mean, I think it's unlikely that they'd trade up to 2 with Houston, just again, divisional opponents. But it's amazing. You've got 3 teams in the same division in the top 11. That's not great. Right. That are all quarterback needy. Could you see Tennessee getting aggressive like that and maybe moving up to 3 there?
Yeah.
Or do they have too many? Like, the only problem with that is they have so many holes. You're giving up capital. That's the only downside.
Because you're going to have to give up a ton of capital, because I would imagine 11 to 3, that's huge. I mean,
you're giving up multiple, you're giving up first,
Will Anderson
in future.
Arizona's giving up. So I would imagine that's multiple first round picks. Yeah. I would think so. Maybe if there's a guy that they're like, this is the guy that we want, he is our future, he's there right now, he didn't get taken at 1 or 2, then yeah. I mean, if you know it's a guy that you think and you're dead set on, you get everybody on board with that. I mean, nobody's going to fault you down the road if you've got this guy for 15 years. Who cares what you gave up at the time? But you're also going to be out the door if it's not the right pick.
You've got the Trey Lance example where the Niners gave up the farm and now they're looking to get whatever they can for him. And they're starting the last pick in the draft instead, assuming health. So you're taking a risk here, but if Trey Lance had worked out, that move looks great.
Who cares? Yep.
All right. The Houston Texans are on the clock, and with their number 12 overall pick, their second first rounder in the top 12 that they received from the Cleveland Browns in that Deshaun Watson trade, the Houston Texans select Jalen Carter. I think he finally is off the board. He can't. I'm debating it. You know, it's like, does he fall this far? Obviously, dude, he could go as high as 2 or 3. But I think that if he goes past the Seahawks, maybe past the Lions, I think he falls. And the Texans at this point, they're looking for impact players. You're thinking, hey, DeMeco Ryans, this is a bad motherfucker that is not going to take any shit from Jalen Carter. And he's going to get that guy in line if getting him in line is necessary. And it's not just the off the field stuff with Jalen Carter that makes me think that he is going to fall a bit. It's also the fact that when he came into his pro day, when that's supposed to be every player's greatest showcase ever, where they tailor the drills to what you're good at and they don't make you do anything that you're not good at. I mean, shit, all the QBs, they're throwing against with no linemen to wide open receivers. They're just throwing into air. It's like, it's basically like throwing long toss in baseball warmups. Like there's like these pro days are supposed to be tailored for your strengths. And he came in 11 pounds over playing weight and couldn't finish his workout. And I know that he was going through all that legal stuff, but when the going gets tough, you just go hammer down Burger King twice a day for the next 2-3 weeks. Like, how do you do
Eddie Lacy?
Cheeseburger Eddie. So I know like he could go as high as 2, but I see him falling less because of the off the field stuff in terms of his legal involvement with that car, the street racing, and more. There's I guess that the combination of that and the concern of the guy didn't finish his pro day workout. Like, that's not acceptable. So, but at 12, the Texans, hey, this is your second first round pick. This is where you can feel free to take a swing, and especially with a guy like D'Amico, that's, I think, is going to be able to keep him in line and not waste his talent.
Oh, that would be pretty solid pick. With my mock draft, the way I went with it, with the quarterback going to Houston with their first pick, got to get him a shiny new toy. And I went with Jackson Smith-Njigba, the best wide receiver in this draft. Even if they don't end up taking a quarterback with that pick, if they went a Tyree Wilson, Will Anderson route, I still think they need somebody in that wide receiver room, and Jackson Smith-Njigba could be their wide receiver one for the future. I think that this is an ideal landing spot for
Bobby
him.
Trees ain't it?
No, Bobby Trees is not it. You can move Bobby Trees over to his wide receiver 2 position, got Nico Collins in that 3 spot, and still need a lot of help, where they're probably going to be drafting a wide receiver again next year. But I ultimately think that this would be a perfect fit. I do there was talks too before with Houston, if CJ Stroud was going to go there. We've seen a lot of success with teams doing that you've seen Joe Burrow getting Jamar Chase coming in, and to a Jalen Waddle connection too. So, there's a lot of success
Jalen
with
Hurts
that.
and AJ Brown, they were I believe roommates in some of these college
camps and stuff,
outside of the school, stuff in the off season. So, and they obviously had that sweet rapport.
Yeah. So I think that would ultimately be the ideal thing. But Vegas odds have Will Levis in the number 2 spot right now. So Jackson Smith-Njigba, though, can be their wide receiver, and I like the fit there.
It's a great fit. It's a great fit. I couldn't pass up on Jalen Carter now. If I'm
still
Houston
on the board
at 12,
right?
Can't pass up on that. They got too many needs, and you take your risk, especially given that it's a first round pick. That's where you can take a swing.
Yeah, for years, Tyree Wilson, Jalen Carter. That's unbelievable on that
to
line.
pair. Yeah, sick.
All right.
The Green Bay Packers are on the clock
with their pick from the Jets in the Rodgers trade. Green Bay Packers select Michael Mayer. I think they're going to be going tight end regardless. I don't know that moving up 2 spots really did a whole lot. Right now, looking at yours, this might be a spot for Jackson Smith-Njigba if he were to fall, but I think with him off of the board right now, I don't see any of the wide receivers really being a huge fit. If Jackson Smith-Njigba was there, yes, I could see the Packers swinging there, but they need a tight end, and Michael Mayer is as sure of a tight end prospect as you're going to get. Yes, he's not the athlete, I guess, that Dalton Kincaid is, but he's going to be solid for you, run blocking, going out, catching passes, being that tight end that the Packers have historically always had. So I like Michael Mayer to Green Bay.
Bubba Franks 2.0. Let's go. With the 13 overall pick, Gel has the Green Bay Packers selecting Nolan Smith, edge rusher out of Georgia.
All right.
I think that they continue this trend of not going skill position at the number 1 overall spot now, or at the first round pick. The ultimate fuck you would be to Aaron Rodgers the second that he leaves.
Yes.
It'd be so great. But I would love to see it, but I think that they're going to like Nolan Smith a little bit too much. He's a beast out of Georgia as an edge rusher. They took another linebacker out of Georgia last year, and also a defensive lineman out of Georgia. So they clearly like their defensive players, the Bulldogs, and I think they grab the best edge rusher that's left on the board. And again, another Georgia player going to Green Bay at the number 13 spot.
Hit that button, Joe, and then I have a question for you before you make your pick. Please tell me you're not going to make me barf on camera right now and put Jackson Smith-Njigba to the Patriots.
I was tempted, but
Okay.
I couldn't do it to myself either.
Oh yeah, you've got him in our campus to Canton.
I've got
League,
him
so
in the
that would
Dynasty. Yeah, I've
blow.
got him in campus to Canton. I could not.
Well, thank you and to the viewers for not making me throw up on camera right now.
With the number 14 overall pick, the New England Patriots select Joey Porter Jr., corner out of Penn State. Totally a Belichick guy. He loves his corners to start off with that. He's swung for the fences on a lot of them, and a lot of them have worked out. And he knows when to get rid of guys. I mean, he got rid of JC Jackson when Jackson was at peak value, and his impact with the Chargers last season was 0% pretty much. I mean, he was
hurt for a chunk of it.
Well, so he started off the season not playing very well, and then he got hurt. I mean, he's just good at moving off guys in the secondary at the right time. He's not afraid to do it, but he's also not afraid to spend the capital to get high-end players. Stephon Gilmore, Darrelle Revis, for example. I mean, those guys were veterans, obviously, at that time when Belichick pulled the trigger on him, but he loves his corners. This guy also is a dog, and Belichick loves his dogs. He's a hard worker. Obviously son of former NFL player Joey Porter, so he's got the right bloodline. I think Belichick falls in love with him, and they have a need at corner. So I think Belichick falls in love with this player. Joey Porter Jr. going 14 to the Patriots.
No, I love that pick, and especially the corner position. If you notice on my draft board, there is a notable name that has not been taken at the cornerback position, and that's Christian Gonzalez. I think if he was on the board right now, the Patriots would be absolutely licking their chomps, and he is in my mock draft. So that would be a no-brainer. That would be probably the quickest pick you'll ever see a team make, and they'd lock in Christian Gonzalez there. It'd be an absolute no-brainer, and he'd be a phenomenal fit in that defense along with Bill Belichick leading the way. So
I kind of want them to go back to where the coaches have to draft at home, so we can see Belichick and his golden retriever drafting at home. In a very modest looking home for somebody that has made as much money as he has.
Right. The only thing I remember from that draft too, the other notable thing was when they panned to Mike Vrabel and somebody was taking a shit and you could see the reflection in the background of the dude just sitting on the toilet.
I forgot about that.
Oh man.
I thought you were going to go Cliff
COVID
Kingsbury
times.
in his bachelor pad, but
yeah.
That's a total bachelor pad.
That was sick. Hit that button, Joe.
Fuck. First time with the sound bar or with the whatever you call it, soundboard.
With the 15th pick in the draft, the New York Jets pick from the Packers in the Aaron Rodgers trade. I've got them shoring up that line, getting Roderick Jones, tackle from Georgia. So I think at this point they're doing best overall, and this guy sitting here going to be an absolute monster for them to throw in either tackle position, help get some additional protection for Aaron Rodgers. You already said it, that wide receiver position, and running back, I don't really see a ton of other pieces there, so we'll get some line protection for him and maybe Zach Wilson down the road, but hopefully not for their sake. But either way, I'm getting plugged Broderick Jones in day one to help protect Rodgers.
Yeah, Broderick Jones was originally my pick for the Jets at 13. However, I am pushing Jones down the board a little bit because the top receiver is still available at number 15. Pairing Jackson Smith and Jigba with Garrett Wilson, former teammate with Aaron Rodgers. That's a nasty young wide receiver room. And so I'm going to go Jackson Smith and Jigba wideouts as finally the first wide receiver
Picking
comes
Lazard to that third spot.
That's fine. He'd be a great 3. Yeah. I mean, he shouldn't have been a 1 last year. And then in your 3 receiver sets, you can have Wilson and Lazard on the outside, and Jackson Smith and Jigba falls in perfectly as the third receiver, that slot guy.
Yeah. So no, that would be extremely sick, but
not something I would love because Rodgers would love that. But no, I don't have bad blood with him. I'll leave him alone. With Jackson Smith and Jigba off the board at 15, that leaves the Washington football. I'm going with Washington football team. Screw the Commanders. That's a stupid ass nickname. I hope new ownership changes that nickname back to the football team. WFT, that's sweet. With the 16th overall pick, the
hit the button.
With the 16th overall pick, the Washington football team selects Michael Mayer. He is going to still go in the top half of this draft. Logan Thomas has been, when healthy, okay. Yeah, he is big time. Oh, God, I regret that so much. Calling him my top tight end in the NFC East. And then he comes in and just basically is hurt the whole season. That was great.
Solid.
A few years ago. Michael Mayer, though, brings a nice presence to that offense, something that Sam Howell, assuming that he's going to end up being the starting quarterback, at least to start this season, have a nice, reliable target in Mayer. They've already got Dotson. They've already got Terry McLaurin on the outside. I get that, but those guys are more down the field threats. Why not get yourself a nice security blanket there with Michael Mayer? I was tempted to go edge rush here because, have somebody on the opposite side of Chase Young is great. Or if Chase Young ends up getting hurt, which he has been for a number of games in his short career, that ideally that edge rusher just fills in his void. But ultimately, I think tight end, just get Sam Howell a little security blanket here. So Michael Mayer, Notre Dame.
No, I like that. I like that quite a bit. So yeah, it's nice to see. I'm excited that they're going to be giving, assuming they don't go and draft somebody, but I'm excited that they're going to give Sam Howell a little run here for at least a good chunk of the season, see what he's got. I think they owe it to him to do that. And hey, it was week 18, but he had a pretty solid performance that week as well. So I have Washington football team going on the other side of the board here, and Joey Porter Jr. sitting there, cornerback out of Penn State, and I think that would be an awesome fit. They need a solid corner to help protect, especially with going up against CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, no one on the Giants at this point in time. But they need someone in there, and Joey Porter would be a perfect fit.
Wan'Dale Robinson, if he can stay healthy.
Yeah.
But the other two teams in that division, are pretty solid at receiver.
Yep. So you can get that shutdown corner to help line up and hopefully mitigate some of the damage that those receivers will be doing.
Yeah, the fit there is money. It's just a mat. I obviously just had him going earlier, but it's a great fit.
Yep. All right, so that will wrap it up. That is our first half of our mock draft, picks 1 through 16. We'll be back with picks 17 to 31 and an additional first pick in the second round as well. So we have an even 32 picks, but tune in tomorrow to find out the rest of our picks. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Go to YouTube, especially for these two episodes. Subscribe, click the bell there. That way you can watch our mock drafts. You can ask us any questions during our live feed. We will hit you up with answers back, or else if it's something we want to discuss a little bit further, we'll feature it on our next episode. Follow us at Dead Arm Sports, at DosGel, at DosJPEC. You can ask us any questions there. If you do miss our live feed, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot. We will swag you up with some Dead Arm Sports goodies. What are those platforms, Mr. Gel?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review to whatever your chosen listening platform is. Also find us on YouTube as mentioned. Again, perfect time to watch us on YouTube as when we're going through this mock draft. Much easier to follow than doing it via audio. I'm sure that some of you listeners have listened to mocks through podcasts, and it's pretty tough to kind of keep track. So, perfect time to find the YouTube page. Just search Dead Arm Sports and you'll find us there. Subscribe, rate, review, and we'll love you forever and ever and ever.
We will be back again tomorrow on the actual draft day to finish this out, so that way you are prepped, ready to go for the actual NFL draft. Going to preview the Mexico Open before that, so tune in for
Mexico. I was like, that's not Las Vegas.
Should have saved that for the closing, Joe. But we'll be back with you guys tomorrow. Have a great night. Sleep well. Hopefully Santa brings you the player that you want in the morning for your team. And Joe, close her out.